Freedom. What is freedom? It's a good question to ask ourselves as we celebrate our nation's freedoms. Here's a common definition of freedom: the ability, the power, the right to do whatever I want to do, when I want to do it, how I want to do it, with whom I want to do it. That's a common definition of freedom out there. How's that working for us? I think it's a flawed definition. Here's the reason why. I think that it doesn't deliver what it promises. So on a national level, the promise is liberty, life, pursuit of happiness. It's the same things that we want on a personal level, right? Yet it's not able to deliver those goods to us. Not in the way that we want, really, deep down, in the way that we deserve as human beings. So let's follow it down the rabbit hole. And let's use an example among many examples that exist today. Addictions. We have become a highly addictive society. And maybe precisely because we want what we want and when we want it and how we want it. And so off we go in many directions, pursuing what we want. And not just addictions in the classical sense, or addictions in the ones that we go right to. Alcohol, drugs, sex, porn, gambling. Yes, all of those. But a host of other things that we have become inordinately attached to, disorderly attached to. What do I mean by that? So, we see something, or someone, or an activity, and we want that, and so we go after that, and then it seems in the beginning to deliver what it is that we want: pleasure, entertainment, distraction, a high, a release, whatever. Whatever it is that we're going after for whatever reasons. But it is a lie that we soon discover doesn't give us in an enduring manner what it is that we want at our deeps. So it draws us in, but then it doesn't free us and doesn't give us the abundance of life that we want. And it doesn't give us the happiness that is sustaining. And so, in a very real way, it is a lie that delivers a promise, but it cannot deliver the promise of the goods it offers us. I mean, just stick with addictions for a moment and go straight into one specific example. Like a person who's addicted to drugs, like a heroin addict. In the beginning, he or she wants that for any number of reasons. But in the end, he or she wakes up in the morning, and I don't think what they wake up to is, wow, this is what I've always wanted to become. This is freedom. This is fullness of life. And I'm so happy. This is what I've dreamed of, right? I don't think any addict thinks that way. And yet, therein they find themselves not free, but enslaved. to a substance, and to a way of life. So we know when we look at examples like that, and there are many in our society today, what it promises, it does not deliver. This definition of freedom. So what's the answer? I mean, not just for like our nation, but for you, for me, for us, for our marriages, for our families, and for our own pursuit of happiness and life and liberty. Is there an answer? Is there a definition of freedom that is authentic and that can actually deliver what it is that it promises? Absolutely. We find it right here in today's gospel reading. In Matthew's gospel, Jesus says these words, "Come to me, all you who are weary and find life burdensome, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon your shoulders and learn from me, for I am meek and humble. You will find rest for yourselves. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." I love that image that Jesus pulls out of his own day and his time. An image that may not be familiar to us. It's an image of a piece of farm equipment, a yoke. Yet it's the central part of what it is that he's offering us. A yoke is something that a farmer would craft, a piece of wood, and you place it around the shoulders and the neck of an ox. In fact, not just one, but 2 oxen. So that this ox, the farmer, can harness the great power and potential of the oxen. To do what? To do his will. And to bring about a great good. And the will is, so with the oxen, with the farmer working together, he plows a field, he plants seeds, crops go, and he feeds those oxen and himself and his family and his neighbors. And get enough farmers and oxen working together, feeds a town, feeds an entire nation, a great good. And Jesus uses this image to talk to us about what freedom is. Freedom, ironically, is yoking ourselves to God. Here's how. Here's the biblical definition of freedom. Freedom is the power, the gift, the grace to become the persons that God created us to be. The gift, the grace, the power to become who we were meant to become. And who are we meant to become? Each of us are meant to become the persons that God created you to be. Uniquely created each of you to be. And the irony, the paradox of the Christian life is that when we yoke ourselves to God, yes, it seems as if, at least in the beginning, that we give him our freedom. And in fact, that is true. We give to God our freedom. But only so he can give it back to us in abundance, in spades. We give to him our life. We submit to his will and to his way. But only so he can give us life and liberty and happiness. More than we could ever craft it ourselves. More than we could ever design our lives ourselves. More than we can ever grasp for it and struggle and fight for it on our own. That's the paradox of the Christian life. that you have to die in order to live. You see, Jesus, what he was saying to us in today's gospel about yoking ourselves to him, he's the other one on the other side of the yoke, by the way. This wood instrument, he's yoking himself to us. We're one of the ox, he's the other one. The farmer is the Father. And the farmer has a will for this human being also, like all human beings. And the Son yokes himself to the Father's will. And he ends up carrying a different instrument of wood. But that instrument of wood, as difficult as it was for him to yoke himself to it, it is also the instrument of victory. And not only victory for him, and yes, it was hard for him to carry this yoke, but victory for you and I, and every human being who yokes ourselves alongside of him and allows the Father's will to be accomplished in our life. And not just victory at the end of life, resurrection, glory, endless life, endless happiness, but even here and now, when we walk with him, we will know a freedom that no one else can give to us. We can't give to ourselves. We can't sustain ourselves, and no one will ever be able to take away from us. Because when we yoke ourselves to him, we become more and more the persons that God created us to be. And when we live our lives the way God created each of us to be, that is true liberty, life, and happiness. And here's the thing. Not just for then you living out your created life the way God created you to be, but get enough of us yoking ourselves to Christ and to the Father. And we can not only find freedom for ourselves and our marriages and our families in a parish like ours, life and liberty. Get enough of us doing this, and we can bring life, liberty, and happiness to an entire nation.